Hi and welcome back to Broadsheet Sydney Around Town. If it's your first time here, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss one of our videos. I'm Emma Joyce, Broadsheet's features editor, and I'm the host of this short guide to Sydney. Let's get into it. I would say arguably one of the biggest openings in restaurant terms this year so far is Le Foot. And Dan Cunningham from Broadsheet, you have found your foot in the door of Le Foot this week, and I want to know more about it. Is it everything you hoped it would be? This is the brand new one from the Swill House Group. So that's Shady Pines, Hubert, Alberto's Lounge. Did it live up to expectations?
These are some of the most singular venues in Sydney, right? So every one of them is distinct. Every one of them, I don't know about you, but I've been back to again and again and again. I think Shady Pines was actually the first proper small bar I ever went to, in my sort of, early 20s, and that's, going back a little while now. But obviously, and the other thing is that these venues have staying power, right?
Absolutely. Shady Pines is a great example for that because they haven't changed the format of what they are, and yet every single happy hour, which is when I like to visit, it's just packed. People love going back to a very well-run, entertaining bar.
Yep, absolutely. And so stepping into Le Foot for the first time, it's, the first thing that struck me was that this is like no other venue in Sydney, which you can absolutely say of all their other venues. So the building, as you know,
it's like opposite the MCA, had a storied history, has been many different things before, including a saloon and oyster bar, I think, at one point.
Yeah, and like a butcher and like a solicitor. And it is truly one of the most storied venues in Sydney, or buildings in Sydney, should I say. So it's a heritage listed building. So it was built in 1838, which is just like so old. And there were basically just all these heritage sort of hurdles to jump over. So it actually took way longer to get over the line than I think they expected. But also one thing that Anton Fort told us from Swill House was that, as the group goes on, opening venues kind of gets harder and harder because they have to sort of, they don't do things by halves. They're always trying to do something different, something new. So this is exactly that. So it's basically, there's nothing like this in the Rocks, which is another really important thing, is it?
Yeah, it's such a space an area, I should say, that has a lot of tourist potential, but it's really kind of changed in the last few years. There's now dining on the streets, which I think is a little bit more inviting, let's say. There are a few better cafes than there used to be.
Yeah, for sure.
For Le Foot to open here is probably unusual, but I really like what they're doing with the space. I know that our writer, Pilla Mitchell, had said it's like a rabbit warren. Can you give us an idea of how big it is and what they're doing with the space?
It's actually two buildings. So you sort of walk into the first building and it's got that beautiful heritage facade. And you go in, and the first building is kind of like the wine bar, which is suited to, walking in off the street. If you just want to duck in for like a really good glass of wine, they've got something like 300, wine options there, and there's heaps by the glass. They do carafes, which I love. That's very, very European. There's sort of space on the ground floor, and then there's a whole upstairs section. This beautiful section that is literally covered in artworks by Ali Webb.
So Anton's wife?
Yes, correct. And then if you keep pushing through, there is like a little alfresco courtyard, and they're sitting out there, and you're like, what is this? Like, where is the restaurant? And you sort of keep going, and there's like a small flight of stairs, and then you just walk in. There's just this, buzzing kitchen and this really unique dining area.
What did you eat? What's on the menu?
So it's Mediterranean inspired. Things like tara masalata. There's like a beautiful one that we tried with like kind of autumnal crudités.
Radish?
Yeah, radish. There was like a cute little like boiled potato on there, which I loved. Canterbury anchovies, and then really just kind of like big, beautiful cuts of meat and seafood. And they're actually using the building's like original cookhouse. So there's like, obviously that's another heritage detail that they're kind of like bringing into, the modern day, and it's really cool. And so yeah, the dining room itself is just kind of this, it's like semi-indoor, semi-outdoor.
Do the different spaces have different vibes to them? Or is it all kind of, does it feel like a continuous space?
Yeah, so it all feels consistent, but I think you would go to a different part of the building depending on why you're there for. So like the restaurant proper is distinct from the front. And like, you know, you definitely want to be making a booking if you're going to the restaurant. Whereas I feel like the front section is so big that you actually have a pretty good chance of walking in, which is what we did. We just walked straight on in. They'd been open for a couple of days. The word was definitely out and we were able to sort of like, there was room for us, which was really cool.
Which part of the venue is where they've got this sort of Greco-Roman mural?
Yeah, so that's the dining room. And that is just like everywhere you look, there is this incredible Greco-Roman mosaic that kind of wraps around the room. It was made in Italy. It was shipped out and it was kind of assembled here. They've really kind of kept the best of, you know, what that building is originally and kind of like just really tastefully added their own sort of touches.
I imagine that it's definitely going to be on the list of kind of best restaurants of this year when we finally get around to doing those kind of roundups at the end of the year. I can't wait to get in, but I also feel like I'm probably too late to make a booking. Well, Le Foot is at 101 George Street.
It is.
All right. Thanks for coming in, Dan, and telling us about it. That's all we have time for today. But as always, you can keep up to date with what's happening around Sydney at broadsheet.com.au and at broadsheet_Sid on Instagram. I'll be back next week. Same time, same place. Chat then.